When Caroline Levitt first filed her lawsuit against the media, many dismissed it as a political stunt. They laughed, confident that their influence and power would shield them from any real consequences. But when the evidence began to surface, the laughter turned to panic. The media, once so sure of its invincibility, was now begging her to stop. The tension in the studio that day was palpable. The air was thick, not with smoke or noise, but with a suffocating silence. The cameras were rolling, the crew frozen in place, waiting for their host to speak. She took a deep, deliberate breath, leaned forward, and did the unthinkable. "Caroline, please," the host pleaded, her voice trembling. "I'm asking you, end this lawsuit for everyone's sake." This wasn't just another heated debate or a routine interview. It was a moment of raw desperation. The host, a woman known for her fierce criticism of conservative figures like Levitt, was now pleading for mercy. The lawsuit had become more than a legal battle. It was a fight for survival. Caroline Levitt had sued for defamation, demanding $800 million in damages. What started as a bold move had turned into a seismic event, shaking the foundations of the media industry. Careers, networks, and legacies were at stake. At first, the media brushed it off, confident they could outlast her. But as the case progressed, the fear grew. Emails, phone records, and internal messages were subpoenaed. Journalists scrambled to delete old tweets, while executives held emergency meetings behind closed doors. Sponsors began pulling out, and the public watched as the media machine started to unravel. Levitt wasn't just suing for money, she was exposing the system. Then came the recording. An anonymous email landed in the inbox of a senior producer at one of the networks being sued. Attached was an audio clip, a private conversation between senior executives, lead anchors, and political strategists. The voices were unmistakable. They weren't just discussing Caroline Levitt. They were orchestrating the coverage, coordinating narratives, and deciding how to shape public perception, not based on facts, but on strategy. One voice said, "It doesn't matter if we can't prove it. We just have to make people doubt her. That's enough." Another responded, "If we say it enough times, it becomes reality. She won't survive it." Then came the chilling statement, "We'll bury her, and if it turns out we're wrong, we'll just move on like we always do." The recording was a bombshell. Levitt's legal team had it, and the media knew it. If it played in court, it wouldn't just end careers, it would destroy the industry's credibility. The host, once a vocal critic of Levitt, now found herself begging for an end to the lawsuit. "You've already won," she said on air. "People are scared. You've made your point." But Levitt wasn't backing down. She wasn't interested in settlements or apologies. She wanted the truth exposed, no matter the cost. The media fought back, launching a smear campaign against her. Old financial records were dug up, distant relatives were interviewed, and false accusations were hurled at her from every direction. The message was clear. Caroline Levitt was dangerous, untrustworthy, and a threat to democracy. Yet through it all, Levitt remained steadfast. She didn't hold press conferences or release emotional statements. She stayed quiet, knowing that the truth would speak for itself. And as the trial date approached, the media's desperation grew. Behind the scenes, the real pressure campaign began. Phone calls were made to Levitt's legal team, her family, and even her friends. Warnings were issued, veiled threats were made, and promises of a quiet resolution were offered, if only she would walk away. But Levitt wasn't walking away. She was doubling down. Her legal team prepared for the trial of a lifetime, and Levitt herself was ready to take the stand. She knew that once the recording played in court, the world would see the truth. The media, built on silence and unspoken agreements, was about to face its worst nightmare: exposure. As the trial date approached, the question on everyone's mind was, who had leaked the recording? It wasn't a low-level employee. It was someone at the top, someone who had seen the corruption of the system and decided to burn it down. The leak was an act of defiance, a betrayal that sent shockwaves through the industry. The media, desperate to stop the trial, made one final offer: a massive settlement, hundreds of millions of dollars, more than anyone had ever expected. It was enough for Levitt to walk away, to claim victory without ever stepping into a courtroom. For a moment, the world held its breath. Would she take it? Levitt stared at the offer, weighing her options. Then, she made her choice. She rejected the settlement. The trial would go forward, and the truth would come out. The media gasped. The legal team scrambled. For the first time in history, the people who had always controlled the narrative were about to lose control. The trial wasn't just about one lawsuit. It was about power, accountability, and the truth. As the courtroom doors opened and the trial began, one thing became clear. This wasn't just the end of a lawsuit. It was the end of an era. The media, once untouchable, was now on trial. And Caroline Levitt, the woman they had underestimated, was ready to expose it all. Some fights aren't about money. Some fights are about principle. Caroline Levitt chose to stand her ground. And sometimes that's the only choice that matters.